Silas first saw the lighthouse as a stark black needle against a bruised gray sky. They called it the Penumbra. It stood on a jagged spit of rock, a final defiant finger pointing at the churning white-capped sea. The boatman who brought him said nothing, his face a mask of granite, and left Silas with his supplies on the slick, dark stones. The air was thick with the salt and the cold, a monochrome world of sharp edges and deep shadows. The interior was a spiral of iron and stone, cold to the touch. The only color was the faded ochre of a leather-bound journal left on a simple wooden desk. The last entry was hurried. The ink bled as if from a trembling hand. "It whispers from the stone," it read. "The shadow climbs. Don't let the light go out. For God's sake, don't let it go out." Silas, a man who sought silence, closed the book. He chalked it up to the madness of isolation. The first storm hit that night. Rain lashed the glass of the lantern room, and the wind howled a mournful, empty song. That's when he heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping from deep within the lighthouse itself. Tap, 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 tap. It was almost lost in the gale, a heartbeat in the belly of the stone beast. He told himself it was the sea, the old structure settling, anything but what it sounded like, a signal. Days bled into a gray smear. The tapping was a constant companion now, growing bolder in the quiet hours. He'd press his ear to the cold, damp walls, trying to pinpoint the source. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. He started tapping back, his knuckles raw against the stone. Tap, tap, tap. The response was immediate, louder, more insistent. L-E-T-M-E-I-N. Sleep offered no escape. He dreamed of shadows pooling in the corners of the room, coalescing into a tall, thin shape that watched him from the doorway. He'd wake with a gasp, the tapping in the walls a mocking echo of his own frantic pulse. He reread the journal, the words of the previous keeper, Elias, no longer seeming like madness, but a dire warning. A new storm, blacker and more violent than the last, descended upon the Penumbra. The great lamp at the apex of the tower sputtered. Its rhythmic sweep of white light across the waves faltered, the beam turning a sickly yellow. The tapping stopped. In its place came a new sound, a dry, scratching scrape against the thick glass of the lantern room, high above. He forced himself up the winding stairs, each iron step a clang of doom. The air grew colder, charged with a static dread. He pushed open the heavy door to the lantern room and froze. Clinging to the outside of the glass, silhouetted against the raging storm, was a figure. It was a void in the shape of a man, a piece of the night sky torn away and given horrifying form. It had no face, no features, only an unnerving, absolute blackness. The scratching was the sound of its long, thin fingers dragging against the glass. It turned its featureless head towards him. The lamp flickered again, casting the room in strobing moments of light and deep shadow. With every pulse of darkness, the figure seemed to press closer, the glass groaning under an impossible weight. The cold intensified, seeping through the glass, a chill that had nothing to do with the storm. Elias's words screamed in his mind, "Don't let the light go out." The lamp mechanism was sparking, a gear grinding with a high-pitched squeal. The shadow thing outside began to tap on the glass, the sound sharp and clear. "Let me in." Silas ignored the terror, the cold, the presence on the other side of the glass. He threw himself at the mechanism, his hands finding greasy levers and hot metal, his world narrowed to the single desperate task of keeping the light alive. With a final, wrenching shove of a lever, the mechanism caught. The lamp flared to life, not with its usual steady glow, but with a blinding, pure white incandescence. The beam swept the room, and a shriek tore through the storm's howl, a sound of scraping static and tearing fabric. The shadow figure recoiled from the glass, dissolving like smoke in the wind. The tapping ceased. The cold receded. Silas stood alone, panting in the brilliant, steady light, the new warden of a prison made of stone and fear.